Good Wednesday to you. I'm glad you're joining us. I just want to make sure that the government is still shut down before I tell you that the government is still shut down. And indeed it is. The government is still shut down because Chuck Schumer continues to throw a theatrical fit, which will be okay. I finished a column literally minutes ago to send to Fox News about the fact it gets serious on October 15th. On October 15th, the men and women in uniform don't get paid. And a lot of them are E1s and E2s. They're enlisted men and women at the lowest level. They're very young. Many of them do have spouses. Some of them have children. They make about $2,000 a month. It's not a lot. They do get health care, but it's not a lot. They'll get some housing allotment as well, but it's not a lot. And they live very close to the margin, and they will until they're in the military for a few years, or they do their 4 years and then get the advantage of the Veterans Bill and move on with their life. But the fact is, they don't get paid and they can't miss a paycheck. So Chuck Schumer, you've got to open the government, and you got to open it soon. The other stories of the day are minor because nothing has happened that we know of in the negotiations over Gaza, and nothing major is going on about the shutdown because the Democrats don't know what to do because they're in a box canyon of their own making. I'll talk to people about that today, including Congressman Campbell and House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. I'm hoping Senator McCormick joins us, but they may be having a vote on the Senate floor right now. But I got to begin with something truly extraordinary for the benefit of my California friends who are out to lunch right now. They're driving around in lunch hour. Katie Porter is the leading Democrat. Likely that it'll be Steve Hilton and Katie Porter running against each other. Democrats, if they nominate Katie Porter, really have a political death wish. She is an awful candidate. I left before she became my congressperson. John Campbell was my congressperson, and then Mimi Walters was my congressperson. But my district turned increasingly blue, and I left California and moved to Virginia. But I'm in great touch with everyone in the district. And Katie Porter is just a terrible congresswoman. I didn't realize how bad she was as a candidate, though, until she sat down with CBS News Sacramento reporter Julie Watts and just goes off the rails. So I want you to see this or hear it. If you're watching on the Salem News Channel, you can see it, but you can hear it. And all credit to CBS News Sacramento reporter Julie Watts for pursuing it. Cut number 1.
What do you say to the 40% of California voters who you'll need in order to win, who voted for Trump?
How would I need them in order to win, ma'am?
Well, unless you think you're going to get 60% of the vote. You think you'll get 60%. Everybody who did not vote for Trump will vote for you. That's what you're saying.
In a general election, yes. If it is me versus a Republican, I think that I will win the people who did not vote for Trump.
What if it's you versus another Democrat?
I don't intend that to be the case.
So how do you not intend that to be the case? Are you going to ask them not to run?
No, I'm saying I'm going to build the support. I have the support already in terms of name recognition. And so I'm going to do the very best I can to make sure that we get through this primary in a really strong position. But let me be clear with you. I represented Orange County. I represented a purple area. I have stood on my own 2 feet and won Republican votes before. That's not something every candidate in this race can say. If you're from a deep blue area, if you're from LA or you're from Oakland, you don't have an experience.
But you just said you don't need those Trump voters.
Well, you asked me if I needed them to win.
So you don't
I
think
feel like this is unnecessarily argumentative. What is your question?
The question is the same thing I asked everybody, that this is being called the empowering voters to stop Trump's power grab. Every other candidate has answered this question. This is not
correct. And I said I support it.
So, and the question is, what do you say to the 40% of voters who voted for Trump?
Oh, I'm happy to say that. It's the do you need them to win part that I don't understand. I'm happy to answer the question as you have it written, and I'll answer it.
And we've also asked the other candidates, do you think you need any of those 40% of California voters to win? And you're saying, no, you don't.
No, I'm saying I'm going to try to win every vote I can. And what I'm saying to you is that...
Well, to those voters. Okay, so you...
I don't want to keep doing this. I'm going to call it. Okay. Thank you.
You're not going to do the interview with us?
Nope, not like this. I'm not. Not with 7 follow-ups to every single question you ask.
Every other candidate has answered.
I don't care.
Follow-ups.
I don't care. I want to have a pleasant, positive conversation in which you ask me about every issue on this list. And if every question you're going to make up a follow-up question, then we're never going to get there.
Ms.
And
Porter,
we're just going to circle around.
I am an
I have
investigative
never had to do
reporter.
this before, ever.
You've never had to have a
end an
conversation
interview.
with
To end
a
an
reporter?
interview.
Okay, but every other candidate has done this.
What part of I'm me? I'm running for governor because I'm a leader. So I am going to make.
So you're not going to answer questions from reporters? Okay, why don't we go through? I will continue to ask follow-up questions because that's my job as a journalist, but I will go through and ask these, and if you don't want to answer, you don't want to answer. So nearly every legislative...
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you, and I don't want this all on camera.
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you either. I would love to continue to ask these questions so that we can show our viewers what every candidate feels about every one of these issues that they care about. And redistricting, it's a massive issue. We're going to do an entire story just...
Are they dating? It is. She's Dwayne's congresswoman, or she was. So it's Dwayne's fault. It's really John Campbell's fault.
It's John Campbell's fault for quitting.
Yeah, it's John Campbell's fault for quitting. And we'll bring that up to him. But I do have to say, what did you make of that? You're a California voter. I'm not. A microphone helps.
I will try to play that as many times as I can get away with doing because I want her beat. I want her beat in the worst way. And look, I have been embarrassed since she came out in her Batgirl uniform. Remember?
I know that. Look, she is a law professor at the University of California, Irvine, hired by Erwin Chemerinsky, I believe. She is a hard left. She did not run in a purple district. She ran in a blue district. It's a blue district now. It used to be purple now, meaning that there was no majority, but now it's majority Democrat. And she did, those were not even tough questions. It's not like an ambush question. And she melted.
She got university subsidy housing while she was a member of Congress.
I don't even know if she's still in University Hills. She might still be in University Hills. I think she's gone back to the law school. But all I can say is, California, you vote for Katie Porter at your peril, because that's it. That's the real Katie Porter. Thin skin, argumentative, absolutely ego-driven, unbelievably angry when someone even asks her a mild follow-up question. I'm calling it. The hand gestures, everything. You got to watch that. Now let's continue with the good news for the Democrat. Harry Enton on CNN on polling about Trump, cut number 2.
Trump, you go back to October of 2024, 44% of the American public viewed him favorably. Now, despite everything, look at this, 43%, which is well within the margin of error of that 44%. And here's the thing to keep in mind. This was good enough to get Trump reelected back in 2024. And Donald Trump is basically at the same point here right now, which I think would surprise a lot of folks, especially a lot of folks on the left who very much disagree with a lot of what Donald Trump has done.
But what do you see is underneath that and driving that? Why is he basically the same?
Okay, to quote the esteemed caller, Dennis Green, the former head coach in the National Football League, Donald Trump is who the voters thought he was. What are we talking about here? Well, is Trump doing what he promised in the 2024 campaign? Yes, 52%. The majority of Americans say that Donald Trump is doing what he promised compared to 48% who said no. So what essentially is going on here is the voters expected all of this from Donald Trump. The majority did, and that is why his favorable rating, simply put, has not really moved all that much compared to where it was a year ago. Trump is basically doing what the American people thought that he was going to do. Indeed, if you look at the numbers, Trump has basically the steadiest favorable rating this much through a presidency of any president on record, and it's basically where he was a year ago, good enough to get him reelected.
I love to hear that, and that's why people say that's what I voted for. Whenever he does something that a lot of people don't like, they say that's what I voted for, and that's what they mean. Let me tell you I looked at the market before coming on, and everything is up today. And the 10-year Treasury, this is about andrewandtodd.com, the 10-year Treasury is down today a little bit to 4.128%. It is a great time to buy a house. andrewandtodd.com, andrewandtodd.com, 888-888-1172. Whether you're a veteran, you don't want to put any money down, whether you're leaving California and you're going to sell your house because Katie Porter might win, and you want to buy anywhere, but you're probably going to go to Tennessee, Texas, or Florida, but you might come to Virginia like I did. No matter where you want to go, no matter if you're a first-time buyer or you're moving, it's a calculation, it's a math problem. How much can you afford What's the rate going to be? What are you going to put down? What's your credit rating? You need expert advice from a lender. All right, andrewandtodd.com are lenders. They're with a bank. So call them at 888-888-1172. Thousands of people in my audience over the years have used andrewandtodd.com. Thousands and thousands, including me and Dwayne. Many people at Salem, my kids, they've all bought their houses with mortgages from andrewandtodd.com. So call them at 888-888-1172, 888-888-1172, or visit their website, andrewandtodd.com. Senator Dave McCormick represents the great state of Pennsylvania. Senator, welcome back. Great to have you on. I want to dip back into your experience as an 82nd Airborne officer. For the last dozen years or so, I've had family in the military. I'm a civilian. I don't know much about it. But those who've been in command have told me about their E1s and their E2s and all the problems that they have, the enlisted men and women who've just joined. I looked up their pay today. An E1 gets $2,319 a month, and an E2 gets $2,733 a month. Is the United States Senate Democrats really going to cut off their pay next week? It's on your end, Senator. We don't hear you. We were
There we
hearing
go.
you.
There we go. Sorry about that.
There we go. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
you're absolutely right. The Senate Democrats, the Schumer shutdown looks like it's on a path to take money out of the pockets of the E1s and the E2s. These folks are living paycheck to paycheck. They're making the ultimate sacrifice. They're willing to serve their country, and on October 15th, they're not going to get paid under the current path. And this is playing politics with America's military, with the American citizens, because we have a clean continuing resolution. That's what's been passed, 14 times over the last couple of administrations. It's basically an extension of the current budget that the Democrats voted for to allow us to finalize some of the appropriations. And the Democrats are so upset with the Trump agenda that they want to hold that, hijack that and hold it hostage to their spending priorities, including undoing some of the reforms we had for Medicaid, allowing illegal immigrants access to health care, and extending the subsidies from Obamacare that were put in place during COVID. These are just unacceptable. It's not a serious proposal. And the reason it's not serious is they want to shut the government down to inflict pain. And unfortunately, it's pain on the American people and the American military.
Well, I'm glad to have you here for two reasons. One, you won the last election. You won in November. So did President Trump. So did the House majority. So did the Senate majority. That's not even a year ago. You guys won. Your colleague, John Fetterman, at least has the decency to vote to keep the government open. And I know that we've closed it before. Republicans closed it before over Obamacare, over big issues. There is no issue here. The negotiation goes on, right?
Absolutely. And listen, I'd go so far as to say, I think just government shutdowns don't make any sense. I think I wouldn't support it whether it was either party, and that's the way Senator Fetterman feels. And I've actually supported legislation and co-sponsored legislation from James Langford, which would eliminate the ability to shut down the government based on the fact that we haven't finished the appropriations process, because it's just bad for everybody. It's not responsible. So I think what's happened here is the Schumer and the gang are playing politics, trying to use this as leverage against President Trump, and it's irresponsible. And listen, what President Trump is doing, you can agree or disagree with it, but if you go to the agenda that he campaigned on, we are in the process of implementing that agenda. And this is, I think, bad behavior on the part of the Democrats, and I think it's unfortunately going to hurt some very vulnerable people among us.
Now, Senator Fetterman, Senator Cortez Masto of Nevada, and Senator Angus King, the independent who caucuses with Democrats from Maine, voted with the Republicans. You got 55 yes votes. Rand Paul doesn't vote for any bill that doesn't cut spending, which is actually a truth test of this bill. It doesn't raise spending. It doesn't cut spending because Rand Paul won't vote for it. But you need 5 more Democrats. When do you think you'll get them?
Well, I know that there's I can say with confidence that on the Republican side, we had a weekly lunch today, and I think everybody is solidly where we are. We are in agreement that the demands are ridiculous, that we need a clean, continuing resolution to be able to move forward. and then that opens up to go back to standard appropriations. On the Democratic side, I think there's a lot of consternation. And I know through personal interactions, a number of people have reached out to me and other members of our caucus and are looking for an off-ramp. And there really isn't an off-ramp. There's nothing to give because there was nothing. This is a clean continuing resolution. We're not trying to win political points with this. We're trying to keep the government running so we can get down to the business of governing through standard appropriation. So I think they're feeling some pain on the Democratic side. They're in a cul-de-sac. They don't know. They don't have a path out. And unfortunately, I'm afraid that there's going to have to be further disruption to bring the right pressure to bear. And the people that suffer from this are unfortunately those young E1s and E2s you started with.
Well, you know, everyone else in the federal government can quit if they want. I like to tell this to everyone. If you don't like not getting paid, it's sort of a feature, not a bug of the federal government on the civil side. You can always go find another job. You know that's coming. But you can't when you're a kid. You sign up for the military in high school. You're 18 years old. You expect to do 4 years and get the GI Bill or maybe longer if you like the life. But you don't expect not to get paid. And some of these kids have kids. I really cannot believe Democrats are going to do that. Aren't they the party of working people, or didn't they used to be? I guess the Republicans are now.
We are. You know, we have become the party of working people. That's the coalition that elected me. It was the building trades and the folks in rural Pennsylvania, rural America that are living often paycheck to paycheck. And I think the Democrats have lost the story here. And again, we can have big policy disagreements. So this is not about agreeing to something or forcing them to agree to something they don't believe in. This is about keeping the government running on a budget that was already approved, so we can get down to the business of governing. And I think it's a reflection of the times. The fact that Chuck Schumer, you could run all those previous statements of him on the floor saying shutting down the government's irresponsible, but there's a fringe left in the Democratic Party that wants to show resistance to President Trump. They've decided this is the way to show that resistance, and unfortunately, it's a decision that's going to lead to real suffering. And those young men and women, you're right. Some of them are newly married. They have children. They are truly living paycheck to paycheck, and this is going to be a huge burden on them. Same with our Border Patrol. You know, we've stemmed the flow of illegal immigrants. It's been a remarkable turnaround, and we've depended on these folks living and working on the border. They too are going to suffer through the lack of getting paid beginning in a couple of days. This is just
what did the conference lunch talk about Arctic frost at all? You weren't there yet, so you didn't get surveilled by the federal government. But did that come up at lunch?
It came up yesterday, and I mean, listen, it's inconceivable to me. What a perfect example of politicizing our judicial system. The very things that the Democrats are accusing Republicans of, time and again, we're seeing that happened under the previous administration. All the legal cases that were brought against President Trump. You now see surveillance of sitting senators. I mean, this is, I certainly acknowledge and thank Senator Grassley for bringing this to surface, Kash Patel for bringing this to surface. Now we need to go through a process through the committees of ensuring we have full transparency on what happened here. And we need to lay down a marker that this just cannot happen in our country. This is like, Soviet Union stuff in the 70s and 80s. This isn't America.
Well, I hope you guys consider a select committee. You got enough really smart people in the Senate, many lawyers, to put the spotlight on this, because it should never, ever have happened and cannot happen again. Senator Dave McCormick of Pennsylvania, thank you for joining me. Let me begin by telling you how to save some money this half hour. Consumer Cellular is a sponsor of our show, and you can call them today at 1-800-411-4454. That's 1-800-411-4454. I got my second phone from Consumer Cellular, and I think you should just switch your phone to it if you're watching your pennies. Some people need a second phone. I do. Journalism things. But maybe you just are tired of paying big cellular numbers, and maybe you don't even know what you're paying. Well, first, if you use my code HUGH25, you'll save $5 a month off of each of your first 5 invoices. But the key thing is, do you have any idea how much you're paying? Go get your cell phone bill. before you call Consumer Cellular. Or you can go to consumercellular.com/Hugh, and my code works there too, Hugh25. But if you call Consumer Cellular, have your phone bill in front of you, because you'll get blown away by how much money you can save. And you can have savings without sacrificing service. Same cell service everywhere. They all provide the same great cell service all over the United States. All you have to do is save money by taking 20 minutes. When you call 1-800-411-4454, you'll get one choice via press 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, or pound. And after that choice, you're talking to a live human being that will take care of all your questions. Takes 20 minutes to switch. You can keep your phone if you want to. You can keep your number if you want to. Keep all your data and your digital ID, all that stuff. Just transfer it over. But you can save money. And here's something for my 50 plus listeners. If you're 50 years or older, you get 2 lines with unlimited data for just $60 a month. That's $30 per line, unlimited. It's an easy way to manage your money. It's a better way to manage your cellular life. It's what you need. consumercellular.com/Hugh, 1-800-411-4454. Now I want to go back to the shutdown because Mike Johnson spoke a little bit about it today. Speaker Johnson, cut number 13. Cut number 3, I'm sorry.
We're not asking Chuck Schumer and the Democrats to do anything different than what they've always done. We've shown you the highlight reel. Chuck Schumer gave impassioned speeches as recently as 7 months ago in March of this year. He said, we have to keep the government open. It would be dangerous and harmful to the American people. He said after the vote, he went on CNN and said, I'm proud of that vote. I didn't like it, but we had to do that. He was right then. He is not right now. We're not asking the Democrats to do anything heroic. We're asking them to do their basic duty and responsibility, as Chairwoman McClain said. Keep the government open. The first responsibility, I'm sorry, I'm aggravated. The first responsibility of the government is to protect the people. And the people who are supposed to be protected are being completely cheated by Democrats in the Senate because they want to play politics. They hate Donald Trump. I mean, they have Trump derangement syndrome. It's very real. Listen to their own comments. And they have to show a fight at any cost. When does that cost become too high? In our view, it already has. They have another chance today to reopen the government, and we'll see if they do the right thing. I pray that they do, because real people are being affected by the games here, and they're sick of it. Thanks so much.
They didn't. Of course, they didn't. One more cut of Speaker Johnson, cut number 4.
We put, and go to it's still on the website, speaker.gov, look at page 57, section 2141 of Chuck Schumer's counter-proposal CR that he filed. There's 6 categories of things that they would like to restore funding to, and it adds up to $192.8 billion, almost $200 billion of hardworking taxpayer funds that would go to support illegal aliens and other non-citizens. Now, with regard to EMTALA, are we saying change the law? No. But one of the things they're doing, and one of the things that Chuck Schumer is advocating for and has filed in the law and is using as a leverage point to keep the government shut down, is he literally wants to reimburse hospitals more money for treating illegal aliens than American citizens. Fact. Go look it up. Go look on the website. Don't take my word for it.
Mr.
We're not
Speaker,
doing that.
It's pretty open and shut. Chuck Schumer doesn't know what to do. More coming up after the break. Got to take my relief factor. Did not do a thing today because it's raining cats and dogs. And I did not want to. I used to do that when I was 25. I used to put on the weather gear. I don't anymore. Now I just stay inside and read. I got Jake Tapper on tomorrow. I got to finish his book. I've got Jack Carr coming up. Fabulous book today. So it was a reading morning. Still, I take my relief factor. I carry in curcumin, resveratrol, and omega. Because when you do that, and it is that easy. Little sip of Trader Joe's water and down go the 4 pills. It is that easy. Whether you're a bicyclist, and I know a lot of you are out there and you bicycle in the rain, God bless you, and keep your eyes up. And some of you go to the gym, you don't worry about the rain. Other of you trundle like I do. Some of you are real runners now. You can go faster than you pass me out every day. I know that. But you all have the same problem if you don't take relief factor. You have minor aches and pains. Don't put up with it. Try it for 3 weeks. The starter pack is $19.95. Call 1-800, the number 4 and the word relief, 1-800-4-RELIEF, or go to their website and find that starter pack at $19.95. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com. Joined by Mary Catherine Ham, host of Getting Hammered, along with our friend Vic Mattis. Mary Catherine, do we want Jay Jones? We're both Commonwealth voters. Do we want Jay Jones to stay in the race for Virginia's Attorney General so that he gets beaten like a rug? Or do we want him to slink away in the shame that he should be feeling for the text that he said and the things that he said?
I mean, he should slink away out of his own shame, which he won't. And secondarily, he should slink away and never be seen again because of the pressure on him by national and local Democrats and state Democrats, of which there is none. Right? So like this problem should be solved because I think murder texts are pretty easily beyond the pale. The guy is not elected yet. I hope the voters decide against him if he remains on this ticket. But I'm genuinely concerned. I don't think I've heard a lot of so and so wants your family to die in the past from for Medicaid changes or for net neutrality. This is the one that's like gotten most literal for me, since the mother he talks about having her children die in her arms is just a right-leaning Virginia mother who he believes would change her mind if that happened to her. And that is an endorsement not of our political system, but of terrorism. It's a crazy.
Well, let me play for you our distinguished former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, with Dana Bash yesterday, cut number 8. Oh, excuse me, cut number 7.
There is a
cut
Democrat running for Attorney General who's embroiled in a scandal over text messages in which he, the Democrat, said that the GOP Speaker of the House of Delegates should get 2 bullets to the head for how he paid tribute to a former moderate Democratic lawmaker who died. He has apologized. Should he get out of the race?
Well, that's up to the people, the leaders in Virginia. They have said he has apologized. What I understand is they say that on balance he's a better person to be Attorney General. But that's up to them.
Moral courage there, right? That's really sticking your neck out.
Well, one, I appreciate Dana Bash asking the question because almost none of these Democrats have gotten a question about this when it would be national news, like just wall to wall if this were a Republican of any level with this in writing. But yeah, her standard is, just as Jay Jones's standard is in the texts, that the normie Republican AG, Jason Miyares, is equivalent to Hitler or Pol Pot, and therefore the guy who has the murder texts is preferable. That is their political philosophy, and that is the way that they convince themselves to keep giving us lectures about political violence and just like congratulate themselves for being so great. This is the theory of the game that they use.
All right, now, Mary Catherine, I want to switch to a more difficult case. New York's mayoral race. Last night, Salem hosted a town hall in which our friends Mike Gallagher, Joe Piscopo, a bunch of other people, and I participated. And the question is, what should New York voters do? I'm not a New York City voter, but I said you should vote for Andrew Cuomo because Curtis can't win. And Mamdani is an anti-Semite communist. What do you think? And boy, did Mike Gallagher get mad at me. I got to do what's right. I got to vote for Curtis Sliwa. He's a better guy. I said, I like Curtis. He can't win. They're only 25% of New York's Republican. He can't win. So what would you do?
I think probably strategically the right thing to do is vote for Cuomo, but I would have a lot of trouble stomaching that vote. And this is the problem with Democrats, right? Is that they didn't muster anyone better, anyone less horrible than Andrew Cuomo, who a lot of people are going to have trouble voting for, including me, even if it's the strategic correct choice. I feel bad for many residents of New York because this is not easy. And I know he's like a nice talker and he smiles a lot, but the things that he's talking about doing are going to be disastrous. And I would prefer New York not pay the price. So I guess Andrew Cuomo would be the only escape hatch from that. But woo, I mean, he killed.
It's not much of an escape hatch. You'll get scraped up. Yeah, you'll get scarred with that escape hatch. But you got to do it. Now the difficult question is, how do we square? Because you are where I am, Cuomo and Jason Miyares. Jason is a wonderful attorney general. He's done great things. That's an easy vote, and he can win. Curtis cannot win, so that's a tough vote. Democrats cannot say, well, you're going to vote for Cuomo because he's better than Mamdani, therefore I can vote for Jones because he's better than Miyares, because we can hold two thoughts. Miyares is a better man on the issues, and he's a better man. How hard is that for Democrats to say?
No, but this is the thing that they do, right? Like, this is the disease that went through some of the Never Trump right, too, which is that, we've made this our litmus test, and there's no way you can make any different decision than we've made, or you're an immoral person. And I just think like a lot of people get stuck in bad situations. I do think a lot of Democrats are going to undervote the AG part, and maybe they won't affirmatively vote for Miares, but I bet people who know about this, even like pretty genuinely Democrat or lefty people, are going to be like, that might be a line in the sand for me. If they believe anything they say about political violence, not rallying behind the political violence murder ideation guy is the way to go.
Yeah, they're going to have to lie about that vote for the rest of their life. If they vote for Jay Jones, the murder them guy, that will be the end. What about Abigail Spanberger? I think she's awful. She can't answer a question about boys and girls sports. How can she win?
Okay, so yes, she is bad. She can't be bare minimum normie, because it would be bare minimum normie to talk about any of these gender-related scandals in Northern Virginia. She can't get on the right side of any of them because she's a lefty who believes that boys should play in women's sports and believes in all of the rules that allow 50-year-old sex offenders, men, to end up in the women's locker rooms in high schools in the Northern Virginia area. Like, she believes in those things. She's not willing to go against them. That would be the ticket to normie voters, right? She can't do the bare minimum normie thing by saying Jay Jones maybe shouldn't be my running mate, the guy who wants to murder his political opponents. However, this is a purplish blue state with a lot of federal workers in it. And I think that was an uphill battle to begin with in an off year. And then you add the shutdown and some of the Doge stuff to it, it becomes really trickier for Republicans. I do think that this story and the Jay Jones story and the gender-related scandals push it further to the right than it otherwise might have been.
And I think Winsome Sears is surging. I think she's doing a fine job with her closing
and she took advantage of those. She took advantage of those Northern Virginia school districts' idiocy and showed up at those meetings and showed up to protest with parents, as she should have.
Winsome Sears all the way. Mary Catherine Ham, thank you. Listen to Getting Hammered. Follow Mary Catherine on X at MK Hammer. The headline at the Times of Israel is very straightforward. Mediators aiming to sign deal on Thursday to free living hostages, begin ceasefire. Now, they're supposed to free all of the remains of the dead hostages as well, and Israel is not supposed to withdraw. I don't know. Pray that it works and that everybody is free and that Hamas is disarmed and out of power. Just pray that that happens. That's the demands Israel's made. Everybody leaning on them. Mediators aiming to sign deal Thursday to free living hostages, begin ceasefire. They don't know what the details are. I don't either. But I do know that the needs in Israel are immense. And I do know that our friends at the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews are meeting them. I have a banner over at HughHewitt.com. Yesterday was the second anniversary of the massacre. The needs are still enormous among people displaced, people who've been impoverished by serving in the IDF repeatedly on reserve duty. They never intended to do 7, 8 tours over the course of 2 years. A lot of people are hurting. And listen, Tayel Eckstein, tell us what is urgently needed on the ground in Israel.
The needs right now in Israel, as you could imagine, after being attacked and in war for 2 years, they're huge. I've never seen more people calling the fellowship and asking us to provide them with food. The fellowship has needed to open more soup kitchens during this war because so many people are suffering. Because I read the scriptures and God says, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, shelter the poor. And that's exactly what I see here. We need food and we need shelter.
If you want to help, the banner is at the top of HughHewitt.com for the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, or you can call in a donation at 800-492-1717. 800-492-1717. Thank you in advance for your tax-deductible donation for the people of Israel through the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. IFCJ has been doing this a long time. They know what they're doing. I also want to remind, especially my new audience, down in Martinsville, Virginia, on WHEE AM 1370, the talk of the town, that we have for you a free newsletter from our sponsors, the American Legislative Exchange Council. Now, ALEC is one of those states which is divided red-blue, so it's purple, and they don't get a lot of legislating done. But that doesn't not mean you shouldn't find out what is going on in the good states. And you can do that when you go to alec.org/Hugh. you can sign up for the free newsletter that comes out once a week on what's going on in the states. Who's cutting taxes? Who's bringing businesses in? Who's concerned with regulatory reform? Who's got a mini REINS Act? Our friends at ALEC keep track of everything going on in all of the 50 states and the 99 legislatures. There are 2 legislatures in each state, a lower and an upper, except for Nebraska, which is a unilegislator. So we've got 99 different chambers to keep track of. ALEC does it. The American Legislative Exchange Council is amazing. ALEC.org/Hugh. And if you know a state legislator, have them join ALEC, because then they'll be smarter, better at their jobs, and serve you better. Ask your state rep, your state senator, are you a member of ALEC, and get them to join and get the newsletter at ALEC.org/Hugh. That's ALEC.org/Hugh. Second week of the Schumer shutdown, and we have got ourselves a Donnybrook in the halls of Congress between Hakeem Jeffries and Mike Lawler of New York. Mike Lawler, the Republican, Jeffries, the leader of the Democrats. Listen to this.
Did you get permission from your boss?
Why don't we sign on right now?
Did your boss, Donald Trump?
You can easily extend the ACA
Did your
right
boss,
now.
Donald Trump,
He's
give
not
you
my
permission?
boss.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not. And by the way,
So let me ask you a
why
question.
did you vote to
Let me
shut
ask
the
you a
government
question.
down?
You
Why
know
did you vote to shut
Let
it
me
down?
ask you a question.
For years, you always lectured about how we need to keep the government open.
You're making a show of this to
No,
make
it's
yourself
sad.
relevant.
It's sad. You could easily sign on to this.
You're embarrassing
You
yourself
could
right
sign
now.
on to this. The only
You're
embarrassment
chasing
here is
clout.
you.
You're an
You
embarrassment.
could sign on to the bill.
Let me ask you a question.
You have 4 Democrats on here.
Let me
Why
ask you a
won't you
question.
sign on
Let me ask
to
you a
it?
question.
It's a
Let
clean
me ask you
extension
a
for 1
question.
year.
You voted for the one big
Clean
ugly bill,
extension.
correct?
I voted for a
The
tax cut
largest-
bill that gave the
the
largest
largest
tax
cut-
cut
the
to
largest-
Americans in history,
the
including, by
largest-
the way, the average New Yorker getting a $4,000 tax cut. Are you against that?
You're embarrassing
Do you want
yourself
to
right
want
now.
to cut the standard deduction in
The
half? Is that
largest
what you
cut
wanted
to
to do?
Medicaid in
No, we
American
rooted
history.
out
You voted
waste,
for that.
fraud, and abuse, by the
You
way.
voted
Tom DiNapoli, the
for a
Democratic
permanent-
controller of New York,
Let me ask you a question.
pointed out that $1.2
If
billion
you're gonna- if you're
were
gonna-
wasted.
Listen, you're not gonna
wasted,
talk. You're not going to talk to
wasted
me. You're not
on
going to talk to me
fraud
and talk
and
over
non-New
me
York residents
because you don't
getting
want to
paid.
hear what I have to say.
Oh, I'm
So
listening.
why
Go
don't you
ahead.
just keep your mouth shut?
Oh,
because you
is
showed
that-
up.
is that the way to
you
talk?
showed up. You showed up.
Yeah.
And so you voted for this one
I
big
signed
ugly
on
bill.
to this. You can extend it
A
right now.
permanent extension of massive tax breaks for your billionaire donors.
So 90% of
So
Americans.
they can get a permanent extension.
90% of
but
Americans
working
take the
class
standard
Americans
deduction.
can't? Is that right?
90% of Americans take the standard deduction.
Is that right?
If you had your way, the standard deduction would have been cut in half. That
No
would have been a
one-
massive tax increase
no
on
one-
Americans all across the country.
You're
You support
here,
that?
unfortunately.
You're
to
against
do
lifting the
the
cap on
bidding
salt?
Of your billionaire
You're,
donors.
the
That's
billionaire
unfortunate.
donors lifting the
That's
cap on
correct.
salt. We put a income cap in place.
Why are you here right now?
An income
Where the
cap.
re- where
Well,
the rest
didn't
of
you
your
want all
Republican
Republicans
colleagues?
to be here?
Where
I'm
the
here.
rest- where the rest of your
You wanted
Republican colleagues?
Republicans to be here. I'm here.
Why are you
And by
here?
the way,
Why-
you can pass an ACA extension right now. Sign
your
on to this
boss-
bill.
Did your boss
Sign
Donald
on
Trump-
to the bill.
Is your boss Donald Trump behind that? yet?
HR 5145. Why don't you get on it?
Mike, is your boss Donald Trump behind that?
Why
yet?
won't you get on it?
Because you don't work for the American people.
Oh, I do. I
You
work
don't
for the people of New
the
York. I work
Congressional
for the
district.
people of my district.
Is that why you? Is that
I'm
why
here.
You got 145.
And by the way, I voted
people
for
on
a
Medicaid.
clean CR to keep the government open
Mike,
and funded.
you're-
You voted to shut it
You're
down.
embarrassing yourself right
Yeah,
now.
leader, with all due
Well, as we
respect,
would say
you're
back
the
in
one.
Why are you playing yourself?
You're the one
Why are
who
you playing
actually
yourself with
voted
these
to shut
theatrics?
the government down.
Actually, you
It's
know
sad.
that's not true.
It's sad. You voted to shut the government down.
Do Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the president?
Right, and
correct?
you're smart enough to
Is
know
that
that you
right?
need 60 votes in the Senate,
Is
right?
that right? No.
Do you need 60 votes in the
Were
Senate or no?
60 votes needed to pass your one big ugly bill?
Reconciliation, which you
Was
did with
six-
the IRA,
was
and
60
boy, that really reduced inflation.
Are you
did a
trying to
great job
elevate
there.
yourself because you're afraid
I'm not
you're
trying
about
to
lose
elevate myself.
re-election?
No, I'm not going to lose
Let me ask you a
re-election.
question.
You spent $42 million last cycle.
Mike,
You didn't do
Mike,
that
let me
great.
ask you a question. Why aren't you running for governor right now? You spent-
Because I
you spent a
actually
year and a half.
enjoy this job, and I'm here to do
You
it. And
enjoy
by the
it?
way,
You enjoy-
by the way,
you
you
enjoy
could actually
embarrassing
pass.
yourself?
You could actually pass
You enjoy being a
a
lackey for
subsidy
Donald
right
Trump?
now
Is that
to
right?
ensure that people don't have health care premiums going up. Why won't you support this one-year bill?
Let me ask you a question.
Tom Swazi's on it. Jared Golden.
Let me ask you a question.
Marie
Let me ask you a
Blusenkamp
question.
Perez.
Let me ask
Are
you a
they
question.
wrong?
Your
Don
other,
Davis?
your other boss,
Are they wrong?
Your other boss, Mike Johnson. I challenged him to a debate.
Yeah.
On the floor. Did he send you?
No, I'm here
On
on
his
my
behalf,
behalf
'cause
of
he's
my
afraid to
constituents,
debate. Is
because
that
you
right?
shut the government down. And my constituents are suffering as a result of your ridiculous ploy, because you're so afraid of Zohran Mandami. By the way, when are you endorsing him?
By the way,
do you endorse him for mayor?
First of all, are
you going to endorse him for mayor?
Listen, you're a complete and total embarrassment right now.
Oh, Why is that? Because you don't want to answer the question?
Is this supposed to be a video for your failed
You don't want
re-election?
to. You don't want to answer the question. Do you support Zoran? By the way, did you see his statement yesterday?
Listen.
An embarrassment on October 7th, blaming the Jews. You support that? Should he be the Democratic nominee for mayor?
First of all, I don't answer to you.
Should he be the Democratic mayor? Should he be the Democratic nominee for mayor?
I'll answer whatever questions I need to answer about the
so
mayor's
you think
race,
his statement
about
yesterday was okay?
First of all,
That's sad.
First of all,
it's unfortunate.
Don't come with this phony.
These are bills.
No.
These are bills. They're not phony. They're
not
real
a bill
bills.
I think that Mike Lawler wins on points. Now, it's not a knockout because Hakeem didn't walk away. But when you say, do you endorse Mamdani, the guy who changes the subject the most and doesn't answer the most questions in a showdown like that loses. Hakeem Jeffries is the leader of the House Democrats, not much of a leader. The old leader, who's still really the real leader, cut number 8, Nancy Pelosi with Dana Bash, after she defended the murder texting nominee by the Democrats in Virginia for Attorney General. She went on to get asked about the CR by Dana Bash, cut number 8.
I understand what you're saying about where the differences are, and they are very big. They are voting yes on what we say here in Washington, a clean CR, a bill to keep the government running for 7 weeks, and Democrats are voting no, and for the reasons you just said. So how are they shutting down the government?
First of all, it isn't a clean CR.
Okay.
So let's not stipulate to that. It's not a clean CR.
What do they have in it?
Going into that. The point is,
freeze, brain freeze. That's why she's no longer Speaker. John Kennedy, Senator Kennedy, on Fox and Friends this morning about the shutdown, cut number 5.
I listened to the clip of Senator Schumer. His relationship with the truth is very casual. The truth is that this is a political shutdown. Senator Schumer is he's nervous as a pregnant nun about losing his reelection to the socialist wing of his party, led by Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, which is in control. Now, we will eventually come out of this shutdown. Here's how I think it will happen. Chuck, Senator Schumer, is a smart man. He's been around a long time. His first car was a Chariot. Washington is all he's ever known his entire life. He knows he's on shaky ground here in terms of policy. So here's how I think it'll end. Schumer will go to 6 or 8 of his colleagues and say, Democrats, of course, and say, I want you to vote to lift the shutdown. Now, he'll say, I can't vote with you. I've got to appear to be tough. I may even have to criticize you, but wink, wink, nod, nod. I'm trying to make the loon wing of the party love me, but you bail me out here. But he's got to be careful with that because he doesn't want it to look like a mutiny, because then he looks even weaker.
He can't win. Dan Sullivan, senator from Alaska, said on this program last week, whenever a caucus decides that the leader is putting the leader's own interest ahead of those of the caucus, that leader is on a short-term lease, like less than 30 days. I think that's what's going to happen. Because the negotiation, by the way, once they reopen the government, negotiations will commence over the final bit. And Republicans want some tax credits, by the way. I want some tax credits for people forced into Obamacare, which turned out to be 60% more expensive than anyone thought. But a lot of people lost their health care, got forced into tax exchanges, and I support some tax credits for working people who got screwed by Obamacare. But I also want some stuff in return for that. I want permit reform. Now, I have a sponsor on the program that has laid this out, the American Exploration and Production Council, axpc.org. If you go and visit axpc.org, you'll see how we need permit reform from coast to coast on extraction, on natural oil and gas, and on pipeline construction. Because energy is freedom. We are in a race with China for supercomputing and AI dominance. We need energy. We need to be able to permit oil and gas exploration, production, and transportation. We need to be able to permit small nuclear reactors. We need to be able to permit housing. We need to be able to permit infrastructure of all kinds. And we've got to change the National Environmental Policy Act, the Endangered Species Act, the Clean Water Act. We're not going to sacrifice the environment. That's silly. We do need to get out of the business of allowing the environmental groups that get rich on attorneys' fees to sue at the drop of the hat and then settle. We need to get away from a lot of stuff that we've learned over 50 years of environmental extremism. But the key thing is American Exploration and Production Council, axpc.org. They have the plan there. Let me also remind you, I'm in the Relief Factor studio. Once an hour, I'm going to tell you, just check the weather. It's going to get cold up here. I'm going to go south, back to Virginia next week. But I got to tell you right now, I take my Relief Factor with me whether I'm north, south, or west. And I do that because it doesn't matter what the weather is. What matters is that you get rid of the minor aches and pains that ail you. If you're in your car right now and you're driving back to work on the West Coast, or you're about ready to take the early hour out to try and beat the traffic on the East Coast, and your neck hurts or your back hurts or your legs hurt, anything hurts, you got a minor ache and pain, you're not going to go see the PT, you're not going to go see the doctor, do try Relief Factor. Call 1-800, the number 4, and the word relief. Took it in the first hour. I tell you about it every hour. 1-800-4-RELIEF. $19.95 is the starter pack, 3-week supply. Try it. You can find that starter pack at their website, relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Former Congressman John Campbell joins us. He is responsible, as you heard Dwayne say last hour, for Katie Porter, who had that meltdown. John, do you think Katie Porter is going to be the next governor of California?
Well, she looked pretty bad there. And the reason she looked so bad is, and I saw this with many Democrats, they're not used to being challenged. They don't. We Republicans, the press would rip on us, ask us the toughest questions, follow up 6 times, and everything else. We're used to that. So, we're battle hardened, if you will. She has never had that. She's never had anything but press in California that fawn over her, that serve her up high-hanging curveballs for her to hit out of the park. So she finally had a reporter there who asked a question and then a follow-up, and she couldn't take it. So, but I guarantee you what she will do, she is the AOC of California. She is the hard left darling of the Marxist jihadist left in California. And so she will probably try and spin this, that this is Trump and Republicans and even some Democrats, some of her Democratic opponents who aren't as anti-Trump and aren't as progressive as she is, trying to damage her. So you need to rally behind her. I think she'll use it for that. So I know there's some articles out there, particularly I saw just on The Spectator just before I came on, wondering if this was a fatal blow to her campaign. I wish it was, but I don't think it is.
You're thinking like I'm thinking. Do you know what she's going to do? It's a CBS News Sacramento reporter, and she's going to accuse Julie Watts of trying to get in with Barry Weiss, who's been named the new president of CBS News. That's going to be the spin.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. But the spin is going to be, this is Trump taking the media and turning the media right wing, and they're after her because she's the biggest threat to Trump, and she's the biggest threat to his agenda of the Democrats running. So I think she's going to try and turn into a positive with her, and understand her base is hard lefties in one of the bluest states in the country. So it might work.
It might work. Now, I want to compliment myself and pat myself on the back because Speaker Johnson saw me on Fox yesterday and he liked it. What he liked, I think, is that I classified commentary on this spectrum: truth, good spin, bad spin, lies. And that the Democrats right now are trapped on the edge of bad spin, falling into lies on the shutdown. When I saw Hakeem Jeffries, and you watched it, debating Mike Lawler, I thought, he's even out of bad spin, but he doesn't want to lie yet. He just doesn't have anything to say at all, and he's their leader. Is that what the House is normally like? Is that why you gave up that nightmare?
It was not what the House was normally like when I was there, but I've been out 10 years. And it has been deteriorating. The collegiality of the House has been deteriorating. It was deteriorating before I left, and it's deteriorated a lot more since. And that was in the hallway. Actually, what I took away from that more than anything else, if I had tried to do that with Nancy Pelosi when she was Speaker, she would not have engaged. She was too smart for that. You know why? She was Speaker of the House. Now, I understand he's not. He's Minority Leader. But even when she was Minority Leader, for Hakeem to get in that kind of an argument with a rank and file member of the other party, in my opinion, diminishes him. I mean, he's the House Democratic leader. He shouldn't be engaging in this sort of thing. He should say, I'm not, that's not where I'm at. But he did engage, and he went at it, and I think it diminishes him, to be honest with you.
I think Mike Lawler won big because Mike Lawler had him change the subject more often, and where he led him to Mamdani, Jeffries did not want to go. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot. I did a roundtable last night for our New York affiliate, The Answer, AM 970 in New York, with Gallagher and Joe Piscopo and a bunch of other people. And it was great fun, but I stunned some people because I'd vote for Cuomo if I lived in New York because Curtis Sliwa can't win. I don't like Cuomo. I think he was a terrible guy. I think he did terrible things with his policy, didn't intentionally murder the old people, but he ended up killing them. However, Mamdani is an anti-Semite communist. And I don't think Cuomo is an anti-Semite communist. I just think he's a Democrat, power-hungry lefty. What would you do if you lived in New York?
It's a very close call, I think, and a very difficult call. First of all, I would do what you and I did with California. I would leave. I would say if these are my two choices between basically socialist, communist, Jew-hating Muslim guy or a corrupt, lying, kind of traditional corrupt Democrat, sort of Tammany Hall kind of Democrat, and that's my choice in New York. New York can't win on this. So I think in the end, I'd probably vote for the Republican, but my first choice would be to get out of New York City. And
well, everyone is going to leave, but that I asked we had a realtor on the call who has 7,000 agents, Dottie Herman, 7,000 agents, and I said, okay, what happened to property values if Mamdani wins? She got at least a 20% drop. I think that's mild, John. I think it could cause a national recession if Mamdani wins. Mark Levin gets very upset when people say, oh, let Mamdani have it. The Democrats will be stuck with him. Mark gets all spun. No, it's the greatest city in the world. We can't do that. And I agree with Mark. We can't give it to an anti-Semite communist.
Well, like I say, they're two bad choices. Mamdani's the worst one. I understand. No argument there. But I'm not sure I could bring myself to vote for Cuomo. And I'll disagree with you on a couple of things. I no longer think it is the greatest city in the world. It was the greatest city in the world. I don't believe it is anymore. I'm starting to think that mantle is moving to Miami, or it's moving to Dallas, or it's moving to Nashville. It's moving somewhere else, but it's not New York. And either of these candidates will bring New York down further. And
Miami might be it because Miami has financial. The reason New York is great is because of its finance. And I sat next to at a PragerU event, investment banker from Miami had flown up to help out PragerU, and we had a nice long time. Miami's amazing. When I went down there for the debate last year, have you been there recently? It's amazing.
No, I haven't been in several years. So,
it's like the Emerald City.
But you talk about finance. Dallas is trying to work on that too. Remember, Charles Schwab was in San Francisco. They got completely out and moved to Dallas. So there's some finance there. And Governor Abbott set up that Texas Stock Exchange in Dallas in order.
I don't know anything about that.
Oh, that was a year or so ago, where basically when the New York Stock Exchange and other exchanges were saying, you had to have woke things in your corporate board, and you had to have woke people on the board of directors, and you had to have LGBTQ plus diversity and all that. They set up a stock exchange in Texas and said you don't have to do any of that here. So it's kind of like all the corporations that used to incorporate in Delaware are all moving out, and they're moving to Texas, Nevada, or South Dakota. And it's the same thing I see going on in New York.
Can you stick around for another segment? Do I have some? Oh, I've got Selena there. Okay, very quickly, why is gold at $4,000
Yeah, I don't want to
an
step on
ounce?
Selena Zito. I'm not doing that.
You can't.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Why is gold at $4,000 an ounce?
It was at $4,000 an ounce because Asian people and central banks have been buying it as reserve currency. And then just recently, Westerners were not buying gold. But just recently, it has now exploded to the front page of the Wall Street Journal, of newspapers, of regular everyday magazines. So now all of a sudden, Westerners are buying it too. In my view,
All right,
it probably
thank you. That's why we've got you there. John Campbell, follow him on X at JBT Campbell, JBT Campbell. Selena Zito is America's columnist. She is, of course, back home in Pittsburgh region. Selena, when I left the Washington Post, I cut my subscription off as well. So all I know about your coal mining piece is that it's byline Prosperity, Pennsylvania. I don't know where Prosperity, Pennsylvania is. My great-grandfather may have worked there because when he got off the boat, he went into the coal mines of southwestern Pennsylvania. Where's Prosperity?
I just texted you a gift link so you can read it.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. This is probably my second favorite story I've ever done next to the steel mill. Prosperity, Pennsylvania is not far from the Ohio-West Virginia line. It's in Washington County. And as you're driving to the mine, it's, those rolling Appalachian hills that are very common in Western PA, Southern Ohio. And you see, it's very bucolic scenes with farms and little small towns, and a bulk of the time that you're driving, there are mines underneath you that are producing millions of tons of coal every year that heat your house, that heat your business, and are going to be the future in terms of help supplying the energy needed for the AI data power centers, which require an enormous amount of energy.
Now, is this so-called clean coal in Prosperity? Because when James Hewitt got off the boat in 1868, it didn't matter what kind of coal it was. They just went down there and dug it out.
Yeah, and what the other I hope people read the story. It's so fascinating. I take you immediately from the intense training that they gave us and to going down the elevator, to going miles out, 1,200 feet underground, and going miles out to the mine. But not only is this coal clean, but also there is a methane capture apparatus at the top of the mine, on top of the Enlow Fork mine, that captures all the gas that used to just go out into the air. And it's repurposed and it's used in the building of industry products like petroleum.
So, Selena, what I really want to know is whether or not it's still a generational profession. In Great Britain, especially in Wales, family after family after family were miners until Margaret Thatcher closed them because they were not productive anymore. Is it a family trade or is it a transient trade?
No, it's very, very much a family trade. You know what else is fascinating? As I'm down there, there's 3 guys with PhDs. A lot of the guys just have bachelor's degrees, and other ones are high school graduates. High school guys that can walk out of high school into intense training and make $104,000 a year, and if they're going to do overtime, they can do up to $200,000 a year. It gives them the ability to live close to home, which is a very important aspect in places like where you and I grew up, where 8 out of 10 people live within 10 miles of where they grew up. That has a deep meaning to people. But there's a wide variety of people, and they love.
What surprised you the most, Selena, about being in a coal mine, other than wearing your overalls and being down there a long time? What's the most surprising aspect of mining?
How much AI and technology is used. Even so the last time I was down in a mine was 2020. And so AI wasn't used as dominantly as it is used now down there, and they were using technology, and they are unbelievable about safety. I mean, just really, really, everything is safety first. And you can't go 5 feet without having the ability to get oxygen into your body, to be closed off from a fire or harmful fumes, and to be rescued. The tracking devices that they used, it's very, very different than it was 5 years ago.
Is it claustrophobic?
I wasn't claustrophobic. It's so, there's so much going on, and it's so fascinating that you quickly, and also the walls aren't the walls aren't pitch black. They're very well lit, and and a lot of them are painted white. And there's so much activity going on, and I was so fascinated by watching and talking and listening to everyone that they were doing, the things they were doing. By the way, when you get down the elevator, if anybody's ever been to the boardwalk, you get on this thing called the man trip. And it looks like something that the tram car on the boardwalk, and it takes you to the long wall. It takes
I cannot. I'm going to go get the gift link right now, and I recommend everyone go over to Zito Selena on X or selenazito.com, or get someone who subscribes to the Washington Post to send you a gift link to Selena Zito's Coal column, because I know what she put into this. Selena, thank you. Always grateful to have Texas Senator John Cornyn join me. Senator Cornyn, good to see you again. Shutdown is in day 8. Any sign of it ending? And if not, will you continue to vote every day in order to put the onus on the Democrats?
Well, we've voted 6 times now, including a Democratic alternative, which certainly doesn't have the votes because it tries to extort about $1 million, or I should say $1 trillion dollars in enhanced subsidies for Obamacare, plus renege on a $50 billion rural hospital stabilization fund, and then restore free health care for illegal aliens. So we're not going to go there, obviously, but Democrats are persisting in the shutdown, but I think they're fighting a losing battle.
Now, Senator Cornyn, last week, and I assume continuing this week, 3 Democrats defected. Senator Cortez Masto, Senator Fetterman, and Angus King, who caucuses with the Democrat senator from Maine. He needs 5 more to defect in order to open the government. They're getting slaughtered on this. Do you have any idea who those 5 might be? Like Jeanne Shaheen, she's not running again.
Well, I think, Gary Peters is also not running again from Michigan. I think once the dam breaks, then we'll be good to go. I think it's going to happen. The question is when, and I can't predict that. Although I will tell you that our military begin to miss their first paycheck next Wednesday, the 15th, I believe that is. And so we're going to keep voting and giving the Democrats an opportunity to vote to support our military. But so far, they've been undeterred.
Senator, for a column for Fox News tomorrow, I went and looked up the pay scale for E1s and E2s. Those are the youngest members of the military, the privates who have just joined, typically 18, 19, or 20. An E1, when they first join, gets $2,319 a month. They really cannot afford to miss half that, and they'll miss half of that. I mean, they're living paycheck to paycheck because they're kids, and some of them are married, some of them have kids, some of them have apartments and cars. Do the Democrats not care about those young soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine, and Coast Guardmen?
I think the short answer is no, they don't care. And according to one report I read, about 6 out of 10 Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And so it is, of course, these young service members who obviously we should be supporting and have some empathy for, who are going to be hurt. But there's a whole lot of other Americans who are going to be out of a paycheck. We have about 130,000 federal government employees in Texas who are not getting paid under the current regime. But as I said, many of this next pay period for the military starts the Wednesday, the 15th, I believe that is. And then there are other deadlines, the 20th, for example, when congressional staff no longer get paid. So I think we'll see some erosion in the monolithic position of the Democrats. because I don't think this is sustainable.
Boy, if they make the kids in the military skip a paycheck and then they open the government up before their staffers get clipped, that's going to look really bad. So maybe the 14th is the day they retreat. When is there a big Democratic demonstration that they've got to be careful not to upset people over?
Well, I understand there is a big demonstration called the No Kings Rally. I think that's what it's called.
Not another one.
I won't be attending, but it's on the 18th of October. So there's some theory that the Democrats won't cave until that time because they want to show solidarity with the most radical element of their progressive base and not be the object of their ire on October the 18th.
Yes, Senator, what's so ironic about that? No kings. The Democratic President Joe Biden had a Department of Justice that surveilled 8 senators, at least 8 senators, and 2 attorneys generals who then went on to become senators. As a former Supreme Court justice in Texas and now as a senator on the Judiciary Committee, what do you make of Operation Arctic Frost?
Well, what I make of it is that the Biden administration's Justice Department was essentially lawless, and they were willing to bend, if not break the rules, in order to get at President Trump and his allies in the Congress. But you know what strikes me, Hugh, is that if they're willing to do this to United States senators and take that kind of risk, just think of what they are willing to do or would have been willing to do to the average American citizen in the country, what rules they would be willing to break to get to them and surveil them illegally. So this is outrageous. We're going to get to the bottom of it, but it's really a sad day for the rule of law and for the deep.
I mean, no disrespect to Senator Grassley, who's a great American and chairman of Judiciary, but I would like to see a select committee, and you being a former Supreme Court justice would be a great chair for that. But you got a lot of great lawyers, including your colleague from Texas, Senator Cruz, and you've got Tom Cotton and Mike Lee and 2 attorney generals from Missouri. I'd like to see a select committee on this because I have no idea who in the world approved this and why Christopher Wray didn't say not on my watch and why Merrick Garland didn't fire Jack Smith. Surveilling United States senators, that's crazy.
It is. It's almost as crazy as indicting a presidential opponent or mishandling classified information. I mean, these folks are just totally tone deaf, and we're committed to getting President Trump and his allies and breaking or bending whatever rules they needed to in order to accomplish their goal. It's just a miracle that President Trump is so resilient after all these years of relentless attacks against him and his allies that he's willing to stand up to them, and he's prevailed. So, but this is a scandal that I agree with you. We have to get to the bottom of and expose.
Well, if we go to the select committee route, I hope you're on that. I don't think we have any other former justices of a state Supreme Court in the Senate. Am I wrong about that? Are you the only one?
I think you're right. We do have Ashley Moody, our newest member of the Senate from Florida, who was a judge in Florida. But I confess I was on the Texas Supreme Court and a trial judge. I believe she was a trial judge.
Yeah, I think you'd make a great chairman of a select committee on Arctic Frost, and boy, do I think we need one. Senator John Cornyn, always good to see you, Senator. Keep coming back. I appreciate the time. Coming up next hour, Jack Carr joins me. This is a fabulous book. This is called Cry Havoc. Now, it combines my 2 loves, thrillers and historical fiction that is reliable. That is, I don't like historical fiction that makes stuff up because then the wrong facts get stuck in your head. Jack Carr's Cry Havoc is fabulous historical fiction. Don't go anywhere. I want you to hear that. I also want you to be safe online. And that is especially true for my older audience as things get more complex and phishing becomes P-H-I-S-H-I-N-G, P-S-H-I-N-G, phishing. I have to go slow for the Steelers fans here. But especially for my new audience on WHEE 1370, Talk of the Town in Martinsville, Virginia. For those of you who are over 50, maybe even over 40, the number and elaborate nature of the schemes to defraud you online is growing at an exponential rate. And you need protection, you need Webroot. I am so proud to have as a sponsor Webroot.com, and I want you to go to Webroot.com/Hewitt because you'll get 50% off. They give you two options, by the way. If you got a lot of people in your family, you're going to want Webroot Total Protection. If you've got 1, 3, or 5 devices or people, you'll want Webroot Essentials. And I can run down, they give me a long list of things. You need to go explore it for yourself at Webroot.com/Hewitt. And I just want you to know it's dangerous online, but you want to live your best digital life. You want to be able to go online and not worry about malware. You want to go online and not worry about having your bank account drained. You want to go online and hide your IP address so you don't get scammed all the time. You want to delete traces of your online activity to keep the bad guys from tracking you. Get family protection for your youngsters, for your students, for your seniors, especially those who are 65 years and older. Web Threat Shield detects and blocks malicious malware which can sleep in your computer for years. Does advanced monitoring on the dark web so that if your material is already there, if your identity is already for sale, they'll let you know. You need Webroot. And right now you'll get it for 50% off. Whether you buy the big package, Webroot Total Protection, or whether you buy the smaller package, Webroot Essentials, you'll get 50% off now at Webroot.com/Hewitt. Let me close the hour by reminding you yesterday was the second anniversary of 10/7. There is optimism coming out of the Middle East about getting the living hostages out. Knock on wood and say a lot of prayers. In the meantime, please support the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. The IFCJ will be there for the families of the hostages. They'll be there for the people who are hungry. They'll be there for the people who lost their businesses because they've been called up 5 or 6 times as a result of the long war for Israel, the longest war in Israel's history. You can make a contribution to the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews on the ground in Israel right now by calling 800-492-1717, 800-492-1717, or go to the banner for the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. It's at the top of HughHewitt.com. Thank you for your contribution. It's tax deductible. Please remember as well, visit my YouTube site and like and subscribe it to get all the senators, all the congressmen, all the important news-making interviews that I do at Hugh Hewitt on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Welcome to Hour 3 of today's program, which I'm pleased to begin with the House Majority Leader, Steve Scalise, Congressman extraordinaire from Louisiana. Leader, good to see you. How are you doing?
Doing great. You, thanks for having me. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. I've got to begin with a question before we get to the shutdown about Jay Jones. Now, I'm a Virginian. I'm going to vote against him. I'm going to vote for Attorney General Mayares. But I got to ask you, you are the most prominent living victim of political violence since Charlie is dead. What do you think about this guy, Jay Jones, who wanted his opponents killed and murdered and his children not alive? What should he drop out?
It's disturbing what he said. I mean, frankly, the things that he talked about, not 1 but 2 bullets to the head of his opponent. I mean, it's disqualifying you, and I hope voters look at that and say, if you don't like the tone of violence, political violence, you cannot elect this guy. He's an embarrassment, and he's still running. And you see Democrats scrambling to try to make excuses for him. But is this really the best that Virginia can do? Clearly not. We've got to do better and stop this kind of radical talk of encouraging and advocating for the assassination of your political opponent after Charlie Kirk, especially, but even before. There's no place for it.
Now, Leader, you know Abigail Spanberger. She's a lefty, but she's not insane like this guy, Jay Jones, is really disturbed. And you know all the other members of the Virginia delegation, Republican and Democrats. Have any Democrat from Virginia stepped up, to your knowledge, to say Jay Jones has got to get out of the race?
Not one. And you would know about it if they did. They're all either in hiding, like what you saw with Madmani in New York. I mean, either in hiding or endorsing him. And which says you're okay with it. And nobody should be okay with that.
I'm glad to hear that. I hope somebody does get some courage. I have, for example, said New Yorkers ought to vote for Andrew Cuomo, though he's terrible, because he's not an anti-Semitic communist like Mamdani. Mr. Leader, let's turn to the House. I saw the tape of Leader Jeffries get into it with Mike Lawler. Good for Mike Lawler. He wins on points, not a knockout. How much of that is just Hakeem Jeffries not being up to this job?
Yeah, and look, you hear a lot of that on the Democrat side. Lawler's a scrappy guy, and he just showed up and said, "Look, Hakeem, why are you keeping the government shut down?" And frankly, the Democrats can't articulate a position. You go back to Chuck Schumer's alternative bill, and Schumer literally had the far left, the nuttiest far left elements of his base write their alternative of why they shut the government down. It was $1.5 trillion in new spending, including $200 billion for illegals to get health care. That's in their bill. They've got their fake fact checkers and all the far left networks trying to fact check it. I can show you in Chuck Schumer's bill where he takes away our verifications that illegals shouldn't be able to get your taxpayer funded health care. Schumer repeals that, in addition to $1.5 trillion in new unpaid for spending as his ransom to open up the government and pay our troops. This is who the Democrat Party is right now. Hakeem, Schumer, the whole bunch of them. 99% of Democrats in the House and Senate voted to shut the government down, and we're there right now. And what are they going to tell our military men and women? Some who are overseas defending our freedom, and their families are here, and they're about to miss a paycheck. Their house notes are still going to be due. Their car notes are still going to be due, and they're shutting it down. They can't even articulate a reason just because Schumer is afraid of the far left and is afraid of AOC beating him in a Democrat primary. He should be less concerned about his political job and more concerned about the jobs of millions of American families.
Leader, I'm a civilian, and so I don't speak with authority, but I got a lot of members of my family who are in the military on active duty, including some who are in positions of authority in the officers' corps. And they tell me about these young E1s and E2s, 18, 19, 20 years old. They're making $2,300 a month, and some of them are married and some of them have kids. They can't afford to miss a paycheck. What are the Democrats thinking?
They're not. They're just scared to death of the radical far left Marxists and socialists in their party that are still angry that Donald Trump got elected president. And they're still not over that election. And you can see it in everything they're doing. They fought us when we said, let's secure the border. They said no. We brought the bill, of course, to say, how about we prevent anybody from having a tax increase in America? Every Democrat voted no. We said, how about we modernize our air traffic control system? Every Democrat voted no. Their answer to everything is just to say no to Donald Trump because he wants it. And the American people are fed up with that. They want a healthy economy. They want lower tax rates. They want Washington getting control over spending and securing our border, not giving hundreds of billions of dollars in tax benefits to illegals. That's where the Democrats are right now. They're a lost party.
Now, Leader Scalise, I have been confirming with all the leadership, Leader Thune, Chairman of Senate Appropriations, Susan Collins, Speaker Johnson, you, and now I'm going to get Tom Cole on as well, who's Chairman of Appropriations. I talked to Ken Calvert about Defense Subcommittee. The appropriations process is actually working for the first time in a long time. Do you concur in that assessment? It's actually working?
Absolutely. And we passed all 12 bills. Tom Cole did a yeoman's job with his committee members, getting all 12 appropriations bills that fund various parts of the federal government out of committee. John Thune, to his credit, said he was going to reverse course from what Schumer did. Schumer never brought an appropriations bill to the floor the last few years. So Thune started bringing those bills to the floor. We're actually in a conference committee right now on 3 of those bills, and none of that's going on right now because Schumer shut the government down. They want dysfunction. The Democrats just want to see everything collapse because they hate Donald Trump. It's an embarrassment that this is a major national party in America, and this is all they have. They have no ideas. Their ideas were rejected by the voters, and yet they still won't let it go.
Well, they're trying to, the only thing I can rationalize, they're trying to set up a negotiation before they'll reopen the government, and they'll say we reopen in order to get X, Y, and Z. If that happens, have we got a wish list too, like permit reform? Aren't there a lot of things we want done that they won't do?
Yeah, and luckily we've been able to do a lot of it on our own, even with a very small majority in the House and in the Senate. We've been able to pass our agenda. In most cases, with 0 Democrat votes, we're moving that agenda. But to do things like permit reform, you need 60 votes in the Senate. And I'm looking for 7 takers on the Democrat side. Everybody in America knows we need it. And yet the Democrat Party's beholden to the radicals in the far left on climate change and all the other things. They want to block any kind of construction, roads, bridges, oil and gas development, keeping energy prices low. They're against all of that. And again, you go see where the American people are on it. They made their voices heard loud and clear in November.
Let me play for you a quick clip of former Speaker Pelosi on with Dana Bash today, cut number 8.
I understand what you're saying about where the differences are, and they are very big. They are voting yes on what we say here in Washington, a clean CR, a bill to keep the government running for 7 weeks, and Democrats are voting no, and for the reasons you just said. So how are they shutting down the government?
First of all, it isn't a clean CR.
Okay.
So let's not stipulate to that. It's not a clean CR.
What do they have in it?
Going into that. The point is.
Then she froze. So first question, Mr. Leader, is it a clean CR?
Of course it is. And credit to Dana Bash, of all places, CNN actually got it right and pointed out to Pelosi, you voted against a clean CR, and she couldn't even respond to it. She froze up because there's no response. They're trying to lie to the American people, and gee whiz, don't worry, health illegals aren't getting health care. Yes, they are in Chuck Schumer's alternative bill. They say, oh, it's not a clean CR. And yet Schumer and most Democrats voted yes on these same funding levels in March. What changed between March and today? It's that the far left threatened a primary against Chuck Schumer with AOC. And frankly, even with this shutdown, AOC would still beat Schumer. So stop worrying about your political future. Worry about what's right for the country and open up the government again with the clean CR that's over in the Senate. The good news is even with Nancy Pelosi voting no, all you need is 5 more senators voting yes, and the bill passes. And we've only got till November 21st to negotiate our differences. And they are large, wide chasms of differences on properly funding the government. But let's at least get back to those negotiations.
Well, thank you, Mr. Leader, because I know it's got to be fatiguing to keep doing the same interview over and over again with different talking heads. But I appreciate the effort that you and the speaker
but it's
and
better
all
when
the
it's
leadership.
with you.
Well,
and
thank you.
I don't get to talk to you enough, so it's good talking to you.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Talk to you soon. Don't go anywhere, America. I'll be right back. I've got Jack Carr coming up a little bit later. We're not just going to beat over your head the shutdown, but we're going to talk about Jack Carr's brand new book, Cry Havoc. But we got to get the government reopened, and we got to get a select committee in the Senate set up on Arctic frost, because that abuse of power is mind-boggling. And now that I think about it, John Cornyn is exactly the right guy to chair that, having been a Supreme Court justice in Texas. I think it's newsy that Leader Scalise called on Jay Johns to drop out of the Virginia Attorney General race. And I also think that it's newsy that he called on his Democratic colleagues to do the same. Sending murdered texts is disqualifying. He ought to drop out. Abigail Spanberger ought to call on him to drop out. No one in Virginia who claims to care about violence in politics and overheated rhetoric can have anything to do with this guy. He's a nut, and now we know he's a nut, and he shouldn't get 1 vote for Virginia Attorney General, much less a majority of them. Nancy Pelosi was asked about him on CNN earlier, cut number 7.
There is a Democrat running for Attorney General who's embroiled in a scandal over text messages in which he, the Democrat, said that the GOP Speaker of the House of Delegates should get 2 bullets to the head for how he paid tribute to a former moderate Democratic lawmaker who died. He has apologized. Should he get out of the race?
Well, that's up to the people, the leaders in Virginia. They have said he has apologized. What I understand is they say that on balance he's a better person to be Attorney General. But that's up to them.
It's not up to them. She's a coward. Her husband was the victim of an assault. She knows what it's like. It wasn't political violence. It was schizophrenia. But all the Democrats who've been out there condemning overheated rhetoric then and now need to ask Jay Johns to get out immediately. Now we have a stunning announcement about the Palisades fire made earlier today. Roll cut number 10.
Good morning. I'm Bill Asaley, the acting United States Attorney for the Central District of California. Today, we are announcing the arrest of 29-year-old Jonathan Rinderknecht for igniting a fire that ultimately burned down the Palisades earlier this year, killing 12 people, destroying more than 6,800 structures, both homes and businesses, and damaging over 1,000 more buildings. The complaint unsealed today charges the defendant with destruction of property by means of fire, a felony that carries a mandatory minimum 5-year federal prison sentence and is punishable by up to 20 years in federal prison. The defendant was arrested yesterday on a federal criminal complaint near his Florida residence, and he's expected to make his initial appearance today in the federal court in Orlando, Florida. I stress that the complaint contains allegations and every defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. The allegations in the affidavit are supported by digital evidence, including the defendant's ChatGPT prompt of a dystopian painting showing in part a burning forest and a crowd fleeing from it. And we're going to put that up on the screen here once we get that going. The allegations are, there it is. That's from his ChatGPT. That's an image he produced a few months before the fire started. It shows the city being burned there. The allegations are further supported by the defendant's cell phone, his false statements to law enforcement, and his behavior during the Lockman fire, which the defendant is charged with maliciously starting shortly after midnight on New Year's Day of this year, and which eventually became the Palisades fire. Late last New Year's Eve, Rinderknecht returned to Pacific Palisades after working the evening shift as an Uber driver. 2 of his passengers told law enforcement that he appeared agitated and angry that night. After dropping off a passenger in Pacific Palisades, Rinderknecht parked his car and tried and failed to contact a former friend. He exited the car, walked up a nearby trail, took iPhone videos at a nearby hilltop, and listened to a rap song whose music video included objects being lit on fire. The defendant had listened to this song and watched its music video repeatedly in the days leading up to the Lockman fire. 12 minutes into the new year, environmental sensing platforms indicated that a fire had started. It took the defendant several tries to contact 911 to report the fire. He fled the scene in his car, but turned around after passing fire engines driving in the opposite direction to fight the fire. While the Lockman fire burned...
Okay, a crazy guy, pyromaniac, 12 people dead, hundreds of homes destroyed. I think they said the maximum sentence is 5 years. Did he say that? I don't know how that's possible. I do know it greatly complicates some insurance recoveries. I'm not an insurance defense lawyer, and I'm not a plaintiff's lawyer, but I think it greatly complicates it to have no deep pocket there like Pacific. Over on the other fire, you've got, I think, Edison or PG&E, one of the bigs, are on the hook for allegedly power line starting of the fire. But that, if you got an arson, proximate cause, chain of causation is going to run right back to him. Wow. What a crazy person. Also want to play for you Elena Kagan in oral arguments yesterday in Chiles versus Salazar. Colorado has a law that forbids anyone counseling a youngster about their sexual orientation against whatever it is that they feel oriented to. It's a silencing law, and you'll hear advocates of the law say it's against conversion therapy, and they summon up all sorts of terrible ideas in your mind about what's going on, when in fact, for example, a youth pastor might just counsel someone to avoid intimacy until they're an adult, they've thought it through, talk to people, maybe go to therapy. Colorado wants to criminalize that. Justice Kagan of the left said this, cut number 6.
I mean, if we assume, for example, and this is a big assumption on your part, but just assume that we're in normal free speech land rather than in this kind of doctor land. And if a doctor says, I know you identify as gay, and I'm going to help you accept that, and another doctor says, I know you identify as gay, and I'm going to help you to change that, and one of those is permissible and the other is not, that seems like viewpoint discrimination in the way we would normally understand viewpoint discrimination.
It sure does. And you know what happens when you have viewpoint discrimination by the government? It's unconstitutional if you have a viewpoint discriminating statute on the books in Colorado. So Justice Kagan, 5 points for you. She's a free speech person. Let me remind you, over at HughHewitt.com, there's a banner to help out the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. And they need a lot of help. It's been 2 years. We're praying for the success of these negotiations, the release of the hostages, the end of the war, the demilitarization of Gaza, the exile of Hamas. We hope it all comes to pass and that it happens very quickly. Jared Kushner's on his way there, if he's not there already, along with the Special Envoy Witkoff. And all honor and glory to President Trump if he gets this done. But it's got to be done in a way that demilitarizes the Strip, gets the hostages all at once free, the remains returned. And the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews are helping those people who've been on reserve duty 6 or 7 times. Every deduction at the banner at the top of HughHewitt.com is tax deductible. There are so many needs in Israel. Please be as generous as you can at the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, or call 800-492-1717. That's 1-800-492-1717. I do want to play again Katie Porter, former Congresswoman, candidate for governor in California, melting down in a powder puff interview on CBS News Sacramento with reporter Julie Watts, who's just doing her job. And Katie Porter is not well, I don't think. Cut number 1.
What do you say to the 40% of California voters who you'll need in order to win, who voted for Trump?
How would I need them in order to win, man?
Well, unless you think you're going to get 60% of the vote. You think you'll get 60%. Everybody who did not vote for Trump will vote for you. That's what you're saying.
In a general election, yes. If it is me versus a Republican, I think that I will win the people who did not vote for Trump.
What if it's you versus another Democrat?
I don't intend that to be the case.
So how do you not intend that to be the case? Are you going to ask them not to run?
No, I'm saying I'm going to build the support. I have the support already in terms of name recognition. And so I'm going to do the very best I can to make sure that we get through this primary in a really strong position. But let me be clear with you. I represented Orange County. I represented a purple area. I have stood on my own 2 feet and won Republican votes before. That's not something every candidate in this race can say. If you're from a deep blue area, if you're from LA or you're from Oakland, you don't have an experience.
But you just said you don't need those Trump voters.
Well, you asked me if I needed them to win.
So you don't
I
think
feel like this is unnecessarily argumentative. What is your question?
The question is the same thing I asked everybody, that this is being called the empowering voters to stop Trump's power grab. Every other candidate has answered this question. This is not
argumentative. And I said I support it.
So, and the question is, what do you say to the 40% of voters who voted for Trump?
Oh, I'm happy to say that. It's the do you need them to win part that I don't understand. I'm happy to answer the question as you have it written, and I'll answer it.
And we've also asked the other candidates, do you think you need any of those 40% of California voters to win? And you're saying, no, you don't.
No, I'm saying I'm going to try to win every vote I can. And what I'm saying to you is that...
Well, to those voters, okay, so you...
I don't want to keep doing this. I'm going to call it. Okay. Thank you.
You're not going to do the interview with us?
Nope, not like this. I'm not. Not with 7 follow-ups to every single question you ask.
Every other candidate has answered.
I don't care.
Follow-ups.
I don't care. I want to have a pleasant, positive conversation in which you ask me about every issue on this list. And if every question you're going to make up a follow-up question, then we're never going to get there.
Ms.
And
Porter,
we're just going to circle around.
I am an investigative
I have never
reporter.
had to do this before, ever.
You've never had to have a conversation with
to end
a
an
reporter?
interview.
Okay, but every other candidate has done this.
What part of I'm me, I'm running for governor because I'm a leader. So I am going to make.
So you're not going to answer questions from reporters? Okay, why don't we go through? I will continue to ask follow-up questions because that's my job as a journalist, but I will go through and ask these, and if you don't want to answer, you don't want to answer. So nearly every legislative...
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you, and I don't want this all on camera.
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you either. I would love to continue to ask these questions so that we can show our viewers what every candidate feels about every one of these issues that they care about. And redistricting, it's a massive issue. We're going to do an entire story just...
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you. As I said in our number, are they dating? Is it like the first get-together? I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you. I've been in this business for 35 years, and I have never... I've had people hang up on me. We have the hang-up club. The late Helen Thomas hung up on me. Who else has hung up on me, Dwayne? I can't remember. The hang-up club. Over 30...
Karen Finney.
Who?
Karen Finney.
Karen Finney hung up on me. You're right.
John Zogby.
John Zogby hung up on me. So
David
we have a hang-up
Corn.
club. But no one in my entire 35 years, no one has ever said, I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you. Oh, well. Relief Factor. You won't have an unhappy experience with the Relief Factor. Maybe we should send some to Katie Porter, because she obviously has some minor aches and pains that are giving her an unfortunate set of temperamental. I just think it's unfortunate when politicians lose their cool with journalists. Maybe Relief Factor will help. Call 1-800, the number 4 and the word relief. It's only going to help the minor aches and pains that you've got. It's not going to cure paranoia, and it's not going to cure imposter syndrome or whatever else any candidate who doesn't want to have an unhappy experiences. But if Katie Porter has had a bad day because her back hurts or her knees hurt or she's been shaking too many hands and your hands hurt, which, by the way, does happen at book signings and things like that, candidates run into it, Relief Factor is for her. You know, I'm thinking of great politicians I've known, Richard Nixon, Pete Wilson, people who've been in the game for a long time, who did 1,000 elections and did millions of events. I don't think I've ever heard that before. I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you. But go get your Relief Factor. 1-800, the number 4 and the word relief, 1-800-4-RELIEF, or go to their website, find the starter pack for $19.95. All you have to do is go to their website at relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. If you're old enough, you'll remember that is the theme song to China Beach. And China Beach is in Jack Carr's brand new thriller, Cry Havoc. Jack Carr joins us now. Jack, I want to congratulate you on a number of fronts. First, let me tell you, I've never given a book about Vietnam to my brother-in-law before. He got out of Annapolis, went to Quantico, and immediately went to Vietnam, 68, 69, caught a little bit at the end of Tet, went back in 71, 72, caught the Easter Offensive. And I've just been very leery about giving him Vietnam books because the guys who did there and did that, you know, it has to be authentic. But when I'm 3/4 of the way through this and I've made all these notes, I've done all this research, this is not just a great thriller. It's great historical fiction. And I don't think I've seen a crossover before. Did you intend that?
Thank you. I did not intend it at the outset, but as soon as I dove into that research, it quickly became apparent that this was going to turn into more historical fiction than just straight thriller. And I wanted to do that to honor those guys who went downrange, specifically the Mac V SOG guys going into Laos, Cambodia, North Vietnam, those denied areas where Americans were not supposed to be, but also everyone that answered the call and went downrange. I wanted to capture the feel of what it was like to be there, and then also capture what it was like to be alive during those times in the 60s, 1968 in particular, the bloodiest year of the war. And in this case, I wanted to do an espionage thriller, which is something I haven't really done before, and drop that into the heart of Southeast Asia during this seminal year that kicks off with USS Pueblo and the Tet Offensive. And of course, in December, we get the sailors of the USS Pueblo back. But I wanted to focus on that year, and I hadn't really seen that done since Graham Greene did it with The Quiet American in 1955. Charles McCary did it with Tears of August in 1974, and John le Carré did it with The Honorable Schoolboy in 1977. But I'm not aware of anyone else doing it since then. So I dove right in, and it did become historical fiction. But I really wanted to honor those people who went downrange during that time frame.
It's so hard, Jack Carr. I've got a very high standard for historical fiction because I can't get bad facts in my head. That's the standard. If I find a bad fact, I'm going to be leery of the whole book. So I'm cross-checking you on the Lodge-Philbin Act of 1950, on Rex Applegate. I know Ellsworth, of course, but I want to find out if Edward Lansdale and Ellsberg are together. I've never heard of William Healy Sullivan. I don't know anything about Joseph Carl Robert Licklider. I mean, I fact-checked you repeatedly, and you got them all right. So I don't know. Did you have like a staff on this?
Oh, I did not. Haven't had a researcher this entire time. And then for this one, I realized that it was going to take maybe a little more help than usual, or we'd still be waiting on this book. So I had a friend, Caleb Daniels, come in, and I would tell him, hey, I need some information on the Browning high power, specifically what was available in 1968 for gunsmithing for a Browning high power. And he'd go out and come back to me with about 2 pages on the Browning high power and gunsmiths in 1968. And there's a few things like that I had to fudge by a year or two, but I talk about those in the author's note. So if there's anything.
Well, I haven't got the author's note yet, and I'll tell you why. I've only done this once before, and it was nonfiction. I've never done it for fiction. I got about halfway through the book. I said, I got to listen to this because I'm going too fast. So I went, and by the way, it's read by Ray Porter, who's fabulous. Ray Porter is a fabulous narrator, and I wanted to slow down so I didn't miss any of the details. How long did it take you to pick Ray Porter?
Well, I was not an audiobook person. I have to have that physical book. I grew up reading. My mom was a librarian, so I grew up surrounded by books and a love of reading. I've never been an audiobook person. And before my first novel came out in 2018, Simon & Schuster sent me a sample voice and said, what do you think of this guy? And it wasn't really the right person. And so I said, okay, choose somebody else. And they said, sure, but get it to us by the end of the day. And if you know publishing, you know they take their weekends very seriously. And this was Friday around noon in Utah. So I just had a couple hours to work with. And I went to Audible and started listening to these different samples. And I found Ray Porter. And then I started listening to more of his samples. And I thought, this is the guy. And I had no idea that he is at the top of the narrator pyramid. And he has people that follow him around from project to project. And I chose him based on the voice. And then he says yes. And we become dear friends. The first one was up for Audiobook of the Year in 2018. And he's just an amazing man, Shakespearean trained actor, and an incredible human being. So
I had no idea. I didn't know him until I listened to this. That's when I went and looked him up. I had no idea, but he drew me in. Let's get to the specifics. Tet Offensive. Thank you. I worked for Richard Nixon in 1978 to 80 in his exile in San Clemente when he was writing the book The Real War, and then he wrote a book, No More Vietnams, and he repeatedly would say to me, Tet, we did not lose Tet. Cronkite was wrong. And boy, did he not like Halberstam or the other guy whose name I've got written down here. You just nail what really happened in Tet. The Vietnamese, our allies in the U.S. lost 4,000 to 5,000, I think you said, and the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong lost, 40,000 guys?
Yeah, and I think it's a bit in dispute, but yeah, a large number, certainly. And what this really highlighted, of course, is I think it's the first time, and you can correct me here, I'm curious on your take, the first time that the media or certain people, personalities in the media, really discover that they have this power beyond just reporting the news and doing it well and creating this reputation and this career based on that reporting. Instead, it seems to me that during this time, late 50s into the early 60s, certainly by 68, they realized they have this power to shape this thing. And they didn't call it a narrative back then, but they had the power to shape events. And that's what we really see in Vietnam. I think one of the first times, certainly the one that stands out the most. And I'd be curious on your.
Well, there's always been propaganda, but not in a free press zone. And Sheehan and Halberstam really thought that they were kings. And Walter Cronkite came back. Of course, it was JFK got us in deep, and LBJ got us to 500,000 people. And you cover all that, but in the middle of it, it's this great thriller. So I want to make sure thriller fans understand these Mac V. Sog guys are amazing. And did you learn about them when you were in SEALs? Is that where you first heard about them?
I knew about them beforehand, being a child of the 80s, growing up with the cultural influences that I did at the time from Hollywood, from the publishing world, and from publications like Soldier of Fortune magazine, from Gung Ho magazine.
Oh, you told me that before, yeah.
From all those influences that I had growing up, so I was well aware of what Mac V. Sog was very early in life. And then as I got into the high school years and just out of high school years, then some of these books started to come out from people who had been in MACV-SOG downrange. And there's more and more of those as we go forward from the mid-90s onward. But I was well aware of what they did. And then, of course, in the SEAL teams, these guys were really, they laid the foundation for all that we were going to do later.
I'm coming right back with Jack Carr. Don't go anywhere, America, except you can go over to Amazon. I recommend the audiobook, but I also have the hardcover for my notes. Cry Havoc is going to be a bestseller, of course, and you can give it to a Vietnam vet and not be embarrassed because they're going to nod. They're going to say, yeah. Martha Raye and Joe Collins is in China, is not in China Beach, is in Jack Carr's brand new novel, Cry Havoc. Okay, Jack, how did you know? I asked my brother-in-law, did you know that Martha Raye and Joe Collins? Oh, you bet we knew. That was a big deal. How did you find that stuff out?
I was just, well, I knew about Martha Raye ahead of time, but Joe Collins I didn't know about until I started doing this research. And it's sometimes, that's the danger of having a researcher that just gives you what you ask for, because you miss all those other things that you find out along the way. So in doing this research, I found out about Joe Collins being there and that impact on the troops and then the backstory to how she gets there.
Tell people about Joe Collins and how she got there.
So she was a Playmate of the Year, and there was a soldier who was wounded, and I guess Playboy magazine back at the time had this thing where if you signed up for a lifetime subscription, a Playmate would deliver that to you, your first issue. And so this guy scrounges together a bunch of money from his buddies in the military over there in Vietnam, and they get I think it was like $100, $150, something like that, whatever it was, and they get this lifetime subscription. And then writes to Hugh Hefner and says, hey, you promised that if we got a lifetime subscription, a Playmate would deliver it. And so they do it. And Joe Collins goes over there and is a huge boost to morale. And she doesn't just stay there where it's nice and safe. She gets out there to these outposts, and the Playboy is all over tanks and helicopters and signs everywhere. And it was just, and it forever cemented, even though Playboy magazine was highly critical of the war generally, that it cemented Playboy magazine's relationship with the troops, and that was important to illustrate.
It's one of the details that allows me to trust you. When you talk about the Montagnards, for example, and the Cross of Lorraine, I can look that up, but I can also look up Joe Collins and find out that she actually did go and that it was a big deal for Playboy. They made a huge impression on the American public, which was favorable after not being favorable by doing the Joe Collins thing. So I looked that up. So, Jack, before we go to break, and I want everyone to know, go listen to the podcast because I'm going to talk to Jack at length about the historicity of this. You start with the Pueblo, and I'm glad you did. Lloyd Booker never gets the cred, but boy, they screwed him sending him out with that boat, and that is really the good nut of a great thriller.
It really is. And when I started this, I thought it was going to be more fiction than fact. And as I got into the research, that kind of flipped on me. And I came to believe that it might be more fact than fiction when it comes to the USS Pueblo and what happened to the most secure encryption devices and keying material of the day goes into North Korean hands. They share that with the Soviets. And so the question is, what did the Soviets do to it, especially if they had someone within the United States government, the NSA, or elsewhere, giving them the keying material that would allow them to use.
And we're going to talk about Desmond after the break, but I want to give a hat tip on the network down the line. You also, I went to Bletchley Park this summer, and they give a hat tip to the Poles for breaking Enigma, and you include that in Cry Havoc. So, I mean, just on the historicity of this, it's 100%. It's a thriller 100%. Go out and get it, America, and go listen to the podcast, because Jack and I are going to jawbone a bit now after the show is over and put it up over on the web and at YouTube channel. You'll enjoy it, and you'll love Cry Havoc. Talk to you tomorrow, America.